Welcome to the Wedding Pros podcast. Today we are going to be talking to a good friend of ours and special guest, Kim Lyn. Before we do that, how you doing, Jared?
I'm doing good. Cool. Doing good. Fresh off a trip from Punta Cana.
Oh yeah.
My sister-in-law got married, and it was fun because I brought my camera kind of as like a backup, and then realized that she was just having the resort people photograph the wedding. So it really ended up...
It's interesting how that works, how we all have family members that still don't know how photography works.
She didn't want to hire us. She was just like, oh, they have somebody. I was like, all right.
You know what? Did you ever see Tanya? So they went to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And they got these photos done. And the guy at the resort was awesome.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was wicked good.
It can sometimes be like that. It was not that... They showed up while she was walking down the aisle. It was the first. They didn't even introduce themselves at all. Like, they just were walking down the aisle, and they filmed it too. And I just was, shooting photos for the fun of it. And I think they were like
a GoPro or something.
I think they were like, oh shoot, like this guy actually knows what he's doing. So they didn't even stick around to take family photos after.
What?
I was like,
did she pay money for that?
Yeah, but it was probably like $300 though. It was like nothing.
Yeah.
So I kind of assumed because they and I was like, I'm gonna take photos of you guys afterwards. But I definitely worked the whole day where I didn't think. I was happy.
I would say like photos. A lot of times I end up working because I don't want to have to do all the other stuff that everyone's doing. So I'll just be like, I'm shooting photos. So I can like do whatever I want.
Well, they did the ceremony part, which is probably like
the part you don't want to do.
Yeah, I wanted to be present for that.
And also not standing in the Dominican sun.
And I also, in general, on a wedding day, like even if I'm just a guest at friends' weddings or whatever, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, I have to talk to people like normal. Yeah. Like I would rather have a camera. I see all these moments that I'm like, oh, this would make a great photograph. It's kind of hard to relax nowadays going to a wedding. So
we got some of these this week.
We did.
These are the Canon, and they're like, I know they're not new. If you're like listening to this, you're like, those are like 5 years old. What are you talking?
What are they for someone at home?
So if you're listening, they are Canon's cinema lenses. And if you don't know what a cinema lens is, it's basically a giant lens designed for shooting, movies and such. And you should check them out online. But we got it. It looks awesome. It's like giant. Here, look, to put in perspective. Like, this is a cinema lens. This is a normal photography lens. This
Probably
thing is
twice the size.
Oh, it's incredible. We're all excited. We're doing some kind of new stuff, some fun new stuff with our wedding films that we will be revealing.
And it's also going to be nice to be shooting on video cameras as opposed to just DSLRs or mirrorless.
Yeah, Ursa Mini Gen 2 coming in the mail, so we're excited about that too. But anyway, that's enough boring gear talk for all of you nerds out there. For the rest of us, normal people, we're going to be talking to a very charming lady who has really awesome business. And so, hi, Kim. How you doing?
Hi. Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we've known Kim for a really long time, like, I don't know, like 5 years.
5 years, I think, yeah.
Kim.
Yeah, what was it, 2013, 14? We shot the stylized shoot together.
Yeah, so 2013.
We did video.
Yep.
You were doing photo. And that was right around the time where you probably started.
I started.
Yeah. Because I remember the whole time we were talking and you were like, do you want to like hop in and do stuff? And later you were like, I needed to take a break. But that was the first time that we had worked together. Yeah. And that was a good time. So Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, or tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll get into it.
So I am a boudoir and wedding photographer. I have a focus in empowering women, inspiring them, whether it be through photography or helping them build brands. I'm a mom of 4. I raise my niece and nephew, so we have a family of 6, and I love what I do. We've been doing it for 6 years now. So I got my first camera in 2012. I started shooting weddings in 2013, and then it's been crazy since then.
So you don't do much then?
No, not much. I kind of just hang out all day.
Yeah. So Kim, one of the things, if you don't, I would encourage you to check her out. Kim Lyn Chauvin is that your main one?
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to check out her feed because one of the things that I think, besides being a good photographer, is she's excellent at social media. Kind of how did that kind of become a thing?
Social media in general?
No,
like
no,
how
for you.
I don't know. I just started doing it. I followed Jasmine Star. I don't know if you guys are familiar
yeah.
with her. So she's huge
She
on social
empowered
media.
you.
Yeah. She actually empowered me to start my business because when I was getting married, I stumbled on her blog and I was like, she was getting married. She started her business that way. I had gone from being I was working in a doctor's office. So I went from that to having no job for like a year to full-time boudoir wedding photographer. So it was crazy. But yeah, she just talks a lot about being who you are and just owning who you are. So I kind of just threw myself into it.
Yeah. So do you remember the first wedding you ever shot?
Yes. It was actually, so I second shot for the first time with Carly Michelle Photography
That's
out of
right,
Boston.
yeah.
Yeah. So she was the first wedding I've ever done. But my first wedding alone was interesting. It was like a backyard wedding, but it was beautiful.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So
I-
it was easy.
I kind of remember, like, you know what's weird is, like, I remember the first time we ever shot a wedding, I remember thinking, like, everything was cool. And I
Yeah,
was
so
like,
you'd be filming like
I'd be like a
knickknacks
basement.
on somebody's shelf that are like, why did we film these like gnomes on somebody's shelf?
Or, like, I'd be, like, in a basement. And so I think the good thing was, it'd be, like, I'd be looking for this awesome shot in every room.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was kind of cool. Like, when you're first starting out, like, you were like, everything is possible.
Right.
Everything could be awesome. Then you get jaded and you do it a lot. And
Well, we had just bought the gear, so it was like you're not used to seeing life in general at like 1.2 aperture, so you're like, oh, everything looks awesome with this lens. I
Yeah.
can shoot everything, and it's relatable, and like, things change quick.
So you did weddings, and then kind of you've been doing this for 6 years, and then you kind of built this social out. For those that don't know, she has around like 18,000
Yeah.
followers,
18.1 or something.
and so a lot of us would kill to have like half that many, or a quarter, to be honest.
Yeah, we would. Yeah,
I wouldn't kill
would be-
anyone for it, but what do you have like a strategy or like a weekly schedule, or like what do you do to even maintain that?
Honestly, it's just consistency. If you're consistent with it, for a while, I was focused on building. So I would host giveaways. I would post 3 times a day. There was this one course I took on social media where if you go onto someone else's page that's similar to yours and you go to their followers, if you like 3 of their photos and comment on one, they're more inclined to follow you back. So for like hours, I would do that. But that was like 4 years ago, I want to say. So now I don't have time for that now. But that really helped me build a following because I was authentically liking their stuff and commenting. I wouldn't do it on stuff that I didn't genuinely appreciate or like. So it's building that community of people that you think would like your stuff.
That's a good word, community.
Yeah.
Because I think that when I look at your social, like for a lot of us, our social is like it's kind of a portfolio / news updates. And
Yeah, especially I find photographers have had a lot more success with social media, Instagram specifically, because it is much more about them. I think videographers, we tend to have a harder time like finding a way to translate our lives to Instagram or on screen. It's much
my
more
biggest
about
beef with the whole entire like wedding editorials, blogs, and social is like it's kind of like penalizes video, not in feeds, but like showing your work. Like
Yeah.
it's gotten better.
it's better, but
Yeah.
it's still like it's way more rewarding to post a good photo of something than a good video. Because video is all about motion. Like there's no frame that you're like encapsulates the video. It's all about the movement and the whole entire sequence. And it's tough. But so if you're a frustrated videographer, you're not alone.
Yeah. Well, especially like the Knot and Wedding Wire, they're going to always kind of favor the photo side.
I don't even
because
know that
it's-
they have any videos on their feeds.
They do, but usually they're hidden in between a bunch of photo, and you only have one frame for video as opposed to 25 frames for photo. So it just naturally is going to fall to the wayside.
I do think, though, if you're a videographer, some of what Kim does with really communicating and talking and really engaging with an audience, anybody can do that.
Right.
Maybe your feed won't be quite as effective. You're not going to get 800 likes on a video, but you can engage with your audience. So talk a little bit about that. Kind of, you've built this community, right?
Yeah.
It really is. And it's like those conversations, that engagement, like one of the things I've noticed about what you do is like it's very authentic and vulnerable. Why is that something that's like really important to you?
It is, because the reason I got into the industry is just to make those connections with people. So my wedding clients, I still talk to 90% of them now. My boudoir clients, a million times more. Like they don't come see me once, they come see me multiple times. And just building those friendships and everything is what's important to me. So for me to post something like a boudoir photo, that girl might have been the most insecure person that's ever walked into my studio. So if I can share a little bit about my insecurities with them, I think it makes them more at ease, and it shows no matter what size you are, no matter what you're going through in your life, you can embrace yourself and just love who you are. So I think I try to push that just because I believe in women, and I really want to see everyone succeed and love themselves.
And you get into like everything on your social.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think something that you do really well is not just the content that you're putting up, but it's also every post has a well thought out like thought or story or insecurity of yourself. Like I think I look at it and I'm like, man, like how does she's always coming up with something that's so good. And I just, my brain doesn't even think about these things. So I guess how do you perpetuate just nonstop good
I don't even
content?
think about it. To be honest, I think it's just who I am. I don't know. I don't think about it. Like you think it takes me along. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It's just what's weighing on my heart. Like we're all kind of thinking the same things, I think. Like with video, you think you can't do it because it's this or whatever. You can share that story no matter what video you're posting. If, like the story you just told about being in Punta Cana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could have written, a whole paragraph on how it felt to be a guest.
Totally.
There's just so much that you could share. I think people just get in their heads about it and don't want to share because it's too personal.
Well,
maybe.
I don't even, honestly, and it's probably just putting myself in a good frame of mind of like, okay, like I tell stories, but I never think of, anytime I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, I know I need to post. And then I'm like, another wedding on the beach, you
have to change that mindset.
Totally.
You're talking to potential clients, you're talking to past clients, you're talking to hopeful clients. So you want to share that experience with them as a guest, as a videographer. I don't know. I just feel like I think it's kind of easy.
I'm being challenged, and I think one of the reasons why we wanted you here is like we're honestly just super. I'm curious because I'm like, how do we do this? How do we make our own kind of feed? Because I don't think it's something we're even super strong in. We do okay. We post content, I want it to be much more of an authentic thing. And what does that look like for us as somebody or as a team?
Just in anybody is like how. I think one of the things I get from even this conversation is like figuring out people are interested in other people's lives.
Right.
Completely.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And for some people, like, I don't think everyone has to be vulnerable on social media. If you don't need it and you don't care about it, the world doesn't necessarily need another account.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's like, oh, your business is screwed if you don't do social. Nobody here thinks that, by the way, if you're listening to this. Like, even Kim with 18,000 followers is not thinking like, well, if you don't have a bunch of followers, you're not going to have a business.
No.
None of us think that. But, if you're doing it and you want to increase the return on it and also you maybe have a passion for it and you enjoy it, I think being authentic and real and actually kind of looking at your business in a different way in terms of like, it's not just what you're doing with your camera, it's you.
Right.
What is that? Simon Sinek says no one cares what you do, they care why you do it. And so the what is, I do photos, I do video, I have a camera. People don't really care about that that much. There's so many people who shoot photos. They want to know like what's motivating you to do this.
Right.
And so for you, what like I can imagine what those things are. What are those things that motivate you with your work?
Honestly, it's different, I think, for every category. Like with weddings, I just love and being in a relationship with Shiloh and trying to...
By the way, that's her husband.
That's my husband.
Shout out to Shiloh.
He's a cutie.
Can't leave him out.
He wish he could have been here today, but he's working. But I just... I don't even remember the question now. Like, I got
What is
caught.
your motive?
Okay, so I just want to connect with people. So honestly, with my wedding clients, I want to share what a positive marriage looks like. Backstory, I came from a really abusive relationship. Shiloh came from a really abusive relationship. So we share a lot of that on our social media. We're vulnerable with that. So my wedding clients actually have reached out to me and like they told me they look up to us in our relationship because of everything that we've been through and they've been through. So they resonate with it. So to be able to share that and connect with them, that helps. And then my motive with Boudoir, same thing, that vulnerability of always feeling down about myself, being in that relationship, having no self-confidence and all that. I think that pushed me towards Boudoir, just to show that you can do anything that you set your mind to, no matter how much someone else puts you down, like you can succeed, I think. Yeah.
Well, having a real, for me, and we don't talk about this a ton in our own work, but I really believe in marriage. Like when I think about like one of the best things I can do, be a part of in this world is helping families, grow. And I believe the world needs more marriage, less hookups.
Yes.
And so,
I'm with you there.
And so I'm looking at it going like, I always, when we talk internally as a company, I'll talk to the guys and I'll always be like, and girls, and be like, hey, this is a sacred thing you're a part of, marriage, whether, no matter what kind of wedding it is or whatever, you're a part of something really special. And so never forget that. And those are our values. And it's like, I know a lot of people have different reasons for what they're doing, but I think the more you can communicate those values, I think people resonate with it and click with it. And it can be really easy to just be like, well, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm just money.
Right.
Nobody cares about that though. Like if you're, what I do know, I'm not an expert on social, but I do know if I was to be like, another wedding booked, and that was my story, people like, which I've seen some people do, by the way.
Yeah.
So excited to have booked another wedding. And I'm like, no one cares.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares about that. What they want to know is, why are you doing this? Are you the type of person I want to work with? So,
and it goes to the I think the storytelling aspect of, photography and videography.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, people care about people. They don't care about things. Like they will pursue things, but at the end of the day, the things that resonate, things that last are
even somebody
people.
who's totally fake, who's a really crappy person, wants to imagine that they're really into.
Oh, completely.
Like, nobody's like everyone wants to be connected to authentic, real stuff.
Right.
And I think even people who aren't
themselves
that way, because I'm sure we've all worked with people who are like, oh, this
Yep.
person. But in general, like, they're attracted to some of the positive things that are about you. We had a couple, I remember they both work for a vendor in Boston, and we met them at an event. And got married. Then, like, their mother was passing away.
Oh, so sad.
Very quick after the wedding. I mean, maybe it was like 3 weeks.
Okay.
And so I think they were like, can you please get us the wedding film? because we really want to show it to her before she passes. And we rushed it, and we got her this wedding film, and we ran into them, and they were just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And they were just like, it was that real, like, they felt like we were connected with them in a really authentic way.
Yep.
And I think you get those opportunities. And so in all the building my social feed, I'm getting booked, I'm making money, I'm making art and all this stuff. It's like, you got to remember there's humans.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about your approach.
Yeah.
Is like, that is what it's about. I think from the beginning, a lot of us, we kind of remember it, but I think that's really what you start with.
Yeah.
It's like people.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So a lot of people probably have no idea how you could build a business on Boudoir. Like, I can't imagine it.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, but again, it's probably not something like I don't have the background for it, and so obviously I'm not going to be super passionate going out and doing it like Kim has. But
yeah, do you feel like for you that was just so natural because of some of your values?
Honestly, Boudoir was the first photography that I started with, and it's only because I did a boudoir shoot for Shiloh when we were getting married. So I had no idea what it was. I had no inkling of whatever. So I had a friend do it for me. I knew it was popular. Well, it was starting to get popular on the West Coast. So we did it, and photos were terrible. But it gave me self-confidence, and Shiloh was so happy. And for me, it gave me a whole different outlook on myself because, again, I was in a relationship for 7 years where I was nothing and, all of that. To go from that to just feeling like I was on top of the world, I could do anything. Like, I'm a mom, but I'm still beautiful. Like, I'm still an individual, and it just made me love myself again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting because you had an experience. Most people who shoot weddings never had their wedding shot before they. So, I mean, I think most photographers aren't married that I know. Maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
But most of them have never, or they got married and they didn't have even a photographer there or something.
And it's different. Like I talked to a photographer last week, and he was like, "Dude, it's so different now that it's actually my wedding. Like experiencing all the same things as my brides and my grooms are going through leading up to the day." He's not even married yet. It's something that I noticed when we got married. I was like, oh, like I understand now. Like I understand all these feelings that people are going through. But also just what is marriage? Like, what is it like, before and after? Like, what's the whole process?
You got to experience that before, though.
Yeah.
So do you do a lot of Dudeoir?
No Dudeoir. I don't think Shiloh would appreciate it.
Is that
Too
a
much.
thing?
It's it's legit a thing.
Is it really?
It's
Oh,
more
man.
fitness kind
Yes.
of thing, but I have started seeing like divorcees like doing it. So yeah, it's a thing. I swear.
Oh my! See, I remember I shot with like a really good photographer. I mean, he was kind of tacky, but he was good. He was skilled, and like he had like a whole bunch of pamphlets somewhere, and like most of them were just normal wedding photography.
Like in his car, or
I don't remember where it was. That's why I'm like, this is a weird story because I'm trying to remember where I saw these things. But anyway, he had all this photography, like these big like 8x10s of his work, and one of them was just this guy laying there with like a velvet towel over him, but he had like long hair.
Do you remember?
But it was a joke. He thought it was hysterical, so he printed it and put it in.
We did a wedding show at the Providence Public Library, and the florist down there had all these photos taken with his flowers, but it was all these guys.
That's what it was.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And it was all these guys with like flowers like over their lips and like, all these seductive.
So
it was wicked funny. It was awesome marketing.
Funny. That's good marketing. Like, that's
great
hilarious.
marketing.
And so I don't remember what it was for, but I do remember I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I was
feel
like, I want to work
brides
with
would
these
love
guys.
That. Like, that's hilarious. Like, I want to go with that.
Yeah, no, I guess that's not gonna be taken off too much. Is that weird? Like how something, and it's like for that women would love something like that, and men would be like, I don't think most guys would be in the least bit
Yeah.
interested in doing that.
I've tried to make Shiloh do it, and he's like, no, I gotta.
I think it would be literally humiliating.
I would love to see Shiloh in a little cowboy hat or something like that. Just for my own personal, ragging on him.
Your own little collection.
Yeah, my own little collection. I
You
see
do kind of
Shiloh.
do. You do kind of do like couples. It's not like kind of boudoir-ish stuff, though.
It's more like in-home kind of thing. And that's what I kind of want to do with him, just to remember the time that we have together.
It's not really.
It's not boudoir either,
No,
but a
it's
lot of my stuff's
slice of
not
life
risky,
kinda.
though. Yeah, my stuff's a lot more tame than a lot of other boudoir photographers. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would call yours normal person.
Yeah.
It's not like a S&M store.
Yeah.
I think
Safer.
yours, like if a dude showed up in shorts in the image, nobody would be like, "That's a weird, out of
Yeah.
place."
Yeah.
Like it's like your house.
Yeah. Right.
Can we talk a little bit about kind of like the practicality of the business and how just working Monday through Friday has helped your business in addition to shooting on the weekends?
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, what is that like? Kind of how do you balance that? I guess where are you going as a business? Do you see yourself kind of going to much more Monday through Friday and balancing that off a little bit more?
So I say I'm balanced, but
Yeah.
as entrepreneurs, are we ever really balanced? I'm like,
always
eh.
changing.
But I try. So Monday through Friday is my editing, emails, all of that, and I schedule all my boudoir Monday through
Do you mind if I
Friday.
ask how many
Yeah.
sessions you try to shoot a week, ideally?
No more than three to five, just because
3 to 5.
yeah, it's too much.
Yeah. And that's pretty consistent for
Yeah,
you. That's crazy.
Yeah, 3 to 5, and then with editing and now wedding season's here, so it's gonna get.
How many
crazy.
weddings do you want to take a year?
That's tricky. So we were thinking of not doing weddings anymore and just doing boudoir, but Shiloh wants to go full force into my business. So we're trying to like figure out where he fits and that sort of thing. So I don't like shooting more than 25 a year. It's just too much mentally.
Well,
for me.
especially when you're also
Yeah.
doing the all the other shoots.
Right.
I do think it's funny when people who do nothing only want to shoot 25. I'm like, why do you want to
Yeah.
only shoot 25 weddings?
Right.
So, like, shoot more.
Yeah. But with the kids,
No,
boudoir,
yeah.
and the
Yeah,
weddings,
yeah,
and then
that-
engagement
that's-
sessions, I'm like, it's too much. I want to enjoy the summer.
That's
so,
a lot.
yeah.
That's
Completely.
crazy.
Yeah, no, and I mean, how recent have you been seeing kind of that? Has it been evolving, or is it?
Yeah, so I started shooting out of my home before, so I would only do like Valentine's Day minis and then Christmas, stuff like that. So it wasn't consistent until about 3 years ago when I got the first studio.
Yep.
And then it's been crazy since.
You know what I remember about that? You were ramping your social up to get that studio launched. It was like everywhere,
Yeah.
and you were like, I got to get that place booked.
Yeah. It was so expensive. Like we were paying $2,000 a month for it, and I was just like, I
That's
don't
right.
know what I'm doing.
That's right.
you know?
And Shiloh recently built your studio,
Yes, yeah.
right?
So we went from a studio in Lincoln, then we went to a studio in Providence. The commute was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The rent was stupid, and it was like a tiny room. So I was like, I'm done. We started renting hotels again because I didn't want to rent a space. It was just too expensive. So then we were like, we never park in our garage. So he transformed the garage, like he renovated the left side of the garage where we usually pull a car in to the bedroom area. And then we had a carport. So we enclosed that, and that's like my meeting space makeup area.
You know what I've learned in our own business, and I'm even from that, if you have an idea about doing something for your business, one of the best things you can do is just do it.
Yeah. Shut everything else off.
Yeah,
Don't
Yep.
listen to anyone else.
Just do it. I mean, obviously, like, if it's risky, that's good. Because if it's risky, it'll force you to actually try to make it happen.
Right.
That's why I brought up even the social thing, because I could tell, I was like, there's some money there. There's risk. Because you don't act the same way when you're not threatened.
Right.
You don't run your business the same way. You don't hustle as hard.
Right.
If you're like, it's not costing me anything, the way you're gonna act is gonna be totally different than if you're like, well, just dropped 20 grand on that.
Yeah.
I got to make it work. I got to figure it out. And you're going to grind, hustle. And a lot of people, they don't produce urgency in their own business. When you do it, you're going to be like, oh, it worked. Why did it work? It's worked because it had to work. You made your, like, and I'm not advocating for doing stupid things that you can't, like, hopefully you're like, you have some information that you could probably, I'm assuming you knew, like, I could probably book a lot of.
Yeah. I figured if I book 2 a month, it's paid for. So worst case, it's
breaks
paid for.
even.
Yep.
But at least it's building your portfolio and it's building your credibility and all this stuff. And it's like, just do it. If you have a crazy idea, try to do it and then kill yourself and work as hard as you possibly can to make it possible. And I've seen that with you a few times. I can tell when you're like making a shift.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you kick it up a notch. And I think that's cool to see. It's like, to me, that's women empowerment, by the way. It's like women running businesses, but also it's marriage empowerment because it's like, you're not doing it alone, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, Shiloh's always behind the scenes.
So that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
I can't imagine, and we talk to a lot of photographers too who kind of run their own show, and I can't imagine running Stop Go Love by myself.
Yeah.
Like, finding either, and this is probably the one thing that I say when people are starting out, like, find a partner or find an advocate that you can bounce ideas off of at the very least. So if that's a spouse or if that's a mentee that or a mentor that you really value, I think finding someone to bounce ideas off of is huge.
Paid coaching.
Yep. Yep.
And like, this is not anything against like groups
Is that a
like,
plug, Jay?
Yeah, if you want,
Teresa?
I got you. But nothing against like groups like Rising Tide or whatever. That's not coaching. Like a group that's designed to encourage you is not the same as a group that's designed to challenge you.
Right.
And like, you need relationships to challenge you. Like, I'm not going to go to a group of 20 people and have them call me out on my crap.
Yep.
They're not going to do that. That's not the purpose of it.
Right.
It's supposed to be enjoyable and encouraging. You need someone in your business world that will kick your butt.
Yeah.
That will tell you, like, either like you can do it when you're really afraid and push you, or like, why won't you respond to your people's emails? Cut the crap. Like, do the right thing.
Right.
You need somebody, or like, why are you wasting your money that way? Let me look at your books. Like, I think that's really critically important. And that's like very accepted in the business world. And in the photography world, there's few people doing it. I think it's becoming more popular. But I don't think it's like really at the beginning when people think about their business. I know we didn't.
No way.
We didn't think about that.
No.
We kind of just, it's weird because I'm always advocating for this stuff. And then I'm like, I made it. Kim made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I do believe it matters though, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting good feedback.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about a mentor, even like a distance mentor, like Jasmine Starr.
Yeah. I've like you guys, like I look up to you. When I first met Jared, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so cool. And now we're sitting here and I'm like, you guys want me to be on your podcast? What?
You're definitely cooler than us.
I don't know about that. But yeah, I mean, I think being in the industry, you just meet people that you click with. Like, we have kind of the same values and that sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's not too hard to find a mentor or someone that will take you under their wing.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about relationships with videographers? Because we do have a good relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we've had two photographers. We had Matt on from Blue Flash, and then we met with Liz LaDuca as well. And then anytime we have photographers on, I think it's something that we ask them either on camera or off camera, or on podcast or off podcast. But just, what's some of the things that you value as a photographer working with a videographer on a wedding day?
Open communication, hands down. Having that relationship before we even start, like, introduce yourself. I get like that styled shoot. I want to make sure that we're both there for the same reason. We want to give the client something that they're going to remember. So for me, it's not like, let me do my job, whatever. Like, I want to build that relationship with you so we can make the client happy. So if I work with a videographer that is in the middle of the aisle when there's a kiss, like, I have to work harder and the guests can't see it and that sort of thing. So just be aware of your surroundings. And I mean, just.
Have you ever worked with a bad videographer?
Yeah. I'm sure videographers have photographers that they're like, oh, like they didn't help me out at all. You know what I mean? It's just that open communication and have a relationship before you start.
Here's what I'll say though. They booked the photographer first.
Yeah.
So that's the deal.
Yeah.
Like let's be real, videographers. This is photographer.
Mm-hmm.
This is you. Now you can complain all you want about that. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Venue, like maybe planner, photographer.
Yeah.
Venue, photographer, planner. But like you're not ahead of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like so, if I don't like a photographer, they're never gonna call me. I don't know that they ever ask us to refer a photographer to them. Maybe sometimes.
Sometimes.
But it's almost never. It's pretty much like they've already booked the person. So if we've had literally people be like, photographers be like, I won't work with any of these people. I only work with these two videographers.
Yeah.
You know, what's like, do you have any memorable bad experiences without naming names? Because I
A
like
lot of middle of the aisle.
standing right in front of you.
Standing in front of, like, when they're about to kiss, doing the whole going around them during the ceremony. It's just distracting.
During the ceremony?
During the ceremony,
Like-
up in
Yeah,
the
I've seen that.
front. Yeah. We worked with some old school ones because we were doing, like, local Rhode Island, and they had, like, the big rolly things, like, on the
They had
dance, like,
dollies?
four of them.
No. Like a rolly tripod.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a dolly
Yes.
tripod.
There
Yeah,
was
yeah.
four of them. We had one
Four of
videographer
them?
like laying on. It was crazy.
They were moving them during
Yes, they were rolling around. It was
We've had a couple photographers actually send us pictures and be like, "Do you guys have these rolly tripods?"
Yeah.
We're like, no.
I was mortified. I'm like this, and it wasn't too long ago. So
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, just trying to
Yeah.
avoid the person.
And I'm so like laid back and timid. Like I'm not gonna say anything to them. I just work harder to do my job because I don't ever want the client to be like, oh, they didn't get along with my videographer or anything. So I'm like, hey, do you mind if I get a shot or something? I'm just
You're not going to
Yeah.
refer them, though.
no, of course not.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think we should start an Instagram of videographers being in the way of photographers taking photos of videographers being in the shot, like because they send it to me all the time that like I got one this year that was two videographers probably 10 15 feet away from the bride and groom, two of them side by side shooting right at the bride and groom
Yeah.
during toasts and not offering any wiggle room
Yeah.
of like the photographer working around them.
I've even had it happen during formals where they're just standing there
Yeah.
and like, what are you videoing?
Yeah.
Because they're just like I'm trying to direct them into a pose, but they're not really doing anything. And then they'll like jump in front of me. I was like give me 5 minutes and then because I always ask them like, hey, do you guys need anything? Let me know if you need 5 minutes. Do their walking shots, whatever you guys need. Because I'm so like,
They do
we work
this
together.
They do the documentary edits. Have you seen this? This is what a few videographers, not many. I find it's kind of gone away, but they do a documentary edit where it will be like, and it's not something that we do.
No.
We've never done a video, but they'll just put a tripod and push play, and they kind of just capture the whole photo shoot.
Yeah.
Or the whole getting ready. They'll put a camera in the side of the room, push play, and just people will be talking about, Game of Thrones or, whatever.
I've never seen that product. If you make that product stinks.
It's that's what, and then they'll just piece it all together back to back to back to back to back. The ceremony is
terrible.
also
Yeah.
included,
I feel like couples think that that's what they want because back in the day,
Yeah.
that's all you did. You just
Yep.
held a camcorder on your shoulder and like videoed. So they think that's or at least the parents think that's what they need, like documentary, but it's not the case.
I'm
at all.
always surprised. This is video world,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always surprised, and I'll talk to parents often. I would say maybe one parent every month, where I'm not talking directly to the bride and groom. I have to convince mom, and then the bride comes on. But the question that they ask me is like, okay, if I hire you, how many hours of footage am I getting at the end of the day? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it totally depends how long your events are, because they do think like,
Right.
okay, we're going to be there for 10 hours. I'm probably going to get at least 9 hours worth of footage. I'm like, no. Like,
Right.
you're probably going to get close to like an hour, with all the raw footage that if we're delivering raw footage to somebody, an hour or 2 hours, and unless you are shooting that documentary
Right.
edit where you're just pushing play, but no one really wants to see
Yeah.
that.
They're not going to watch it.
Yeah.
They're not going to watch it. Yeah, I remember I was looking at a photographer or a videographer, and he puts his tripod in the middle of the aisle.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Happens a lot.
how could you be so rude?
Yeah. Yep.
Like for everyone. He was like, not just middle of the aisle back,
Yep.
middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like up to so guests are obscured.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's like, don't get me wrong. I've said to people before, during receptions, the guy like, can you move? And I'm like, look, dude, I can't move. I got to shoot this. I get it. He's like, there are times where you're going to be in someone's way a little bit.
Usually
You
it's like
can't
a
avoid
great
it.
uncle with his cane, like
Yeah,
tapping
yeah.
your knees.
Yeah,
Poor Shiloh.
there are times where you're going to be in somebody's way. And I get it that your client has paid you to shoot. You got to shoot. But like, have a little bit of courtesy. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Like, and you can back me up on this, Kim. Photographers and wedding planners, if you're a videographer, they will keep you from getting work if they don't like you.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
And
probably
that-
only refer to videographers. Obviously, you guys.
Yeah, and not in an active way where they'll say like I know some that will say no, I won't work with this person.
Yeah.
Most of them won't do that.
Yeah.
But most of them will say like, oh, they'll just recommend who they want.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't really have to actually necessarily do a great product. What you need to do is be respectful
Right.
and be fun to work with. And obviously it helps to make a good product.
Yeah.
Because then, they get something out of the video too. But I think, right? Like
Yeah,
you guys,
100%.
you will like say, no, don't work with this person.
Right.
And it's like, I think that a lot of videographers have it twisted. They think like, oh, these people are annoying me. And I'm like, yeah, you can argue, you can fight about that to your own detriment. Because I will always be like, I'll come back sometimes and I'm like, oh, that photographer was terrible. I'm never going to go on social media
Yeah.
in
No.
a private Facebook group, talk crap about a photographer. I'm never going to post an image of a photographer in my way and tell
Right.
everyone. I'm not going to, because I know that person controls my business.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
I want everyone to think I love them and everyone to feel like I was like serving them.
Well, and like, honestly, even if you work with a photographer, you're like, I would rather work with Kim. But I would still rather have a job working another wedding with this person than not be working at
Right.
all. Right?
Yeah. That's
Right?
it. It's like you want to have a job and it's
Yeah.
like,
It might not be the most ideal circumstance, and I think we work in a culture in the industry where people are like, oh, you only want to work with your ideal bride. That's it. And like, I get it. You want to work with cool people, but at the same time, I would rather work with everybody and anybody.
We're kind of in like a spoiled kind of industry. I
Totally.
feel like. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's gonna-
we talk about it a lot.
it's a bubble.
Yeah.
Like pretty soon, like there's a lot of people who didn't build good brands right now that are freaking.
Yeah.
And they're losing money. And they're like, they're like 2019's terrible. And I'm like, not for me. 2019 is great for me, but it's terrible for overpriced people who are getting like every year that you're going to get, there's a pile of people that get hedged out by new people
Right.
who offer the same exact product for half his price.
Right.
That's the deal. It's not way better.
Right.
And they have cooler tattoos now.
Yep.
So.
And they look cooler and
Yeah.
their website's cooler and they actually built a new website so the work's up to date and
Right.
they actually do social. Like if you're like a 35-year-old person like us and you're not doing any of the stuff that millennial photographer is doing, who do you think the bride's going to be connected to?
Yeah.
And so it's like you're spoiled.
Yeah.
We were spoiled. Like if you're charging $6-8 grand for photography, you're probably spoiled.
Yeah.
Let's just be real.
Spoiled.
Well, and if you are charging that much, you probably have the clout to be like, well, I'm only going to take this amount of time. I can be, or this amount of clients. I can be
Sure.
a little bit more picky.
Sure.
So coming from that side of things, I think it tends to get cloudy when you're just starting out and you're like, I just want work, but I'm only supposed to take the people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Instead
I
of
think
just-
that's
Really
that's the
confusing.
confusing message is like, oh, find your ideal client.
Yeah.
And it's like the ideal client for a person who's been shooting for 10 years, who has ridiculous demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where people are, because you know how it is. You're like,
Yeah.
I can only take so many weddings.
Right.
You could probably take a lot more if you took every wedding.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so you're making decisions based on what builds my portfolio, who do I want to work
Yeah.
with. If you were starting out, you wouldn't do that. You didn't do that, right?
No, my first wedding I shot was $1,000, and that was after a year shooting with second shooting for her. So I had the portfolio, and yeah, I mean, you got to feed your kids, so
You shoot
do
whatever.
what you got to do.
And that's what I've heard from everyone is like people who I respect who are running businesses, not
Right.
just like selling classes. But people who are running businesses, they did whatever it took.
Right.
And then when demand comes, then you make decisions about like, oh, how much am I worth?
Right.
But like not when you were starting out. So that's all of us are successful, and we're all telling you, ignore that. Do what you got to do. And when you have so much demand, you make a decision about that.
Right.
At that point.
Something I wanted to ask you about, Kim, was kind of that the client that you work with. Maybe you do boudoir, you shoot their wedding. You know, how do you maintain? You mentioned it before. How do you maintain a relationship with those people? And are you seeing that you're selling to them even after the
Yeah,
wedding?
is that like, do you have like an email strategy, or is it just like
I should have an email strategy, and I don't.
We should as well.
I'm working on it.
so many
I
things we all should
sign
all
up
be
for
doing?
that email list, but no. Right now, I'm shooting a lot of maternity for my couples
yeah.
that
Very
have
cool.
come through,
And they're just
Again,
like messaging you. And,
yeah, and I don't advertise for it just because I'm already so busy. But if a wedding client comes to me that I've had, like, I'm gonna shoot their maternity. We have couples that we still go to dinner with when they come into town, and we just love them. Like, I love having that
Yeah.
relationship. So any way to stay in contact.
It's interesting because we really hate our clients. No, we don't.
Yeah, I think it's challenging to me because I'm like, well, majority of the clients they're not repeat customers.
Right.
Hopefully, they're not repeat customers because
Right.
we're only shooting weddings.
Right.
But maybe we're working with a mom and we shoot 2 daughters' weddings within 2 or 3 years. That happens a lot. But I've been thinking a lot about like, well, what can we actually sell to people after the wedding? Is it? I think for a lot of photographers, potentially family sessions, maternity sessions, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it's been challenging for me because we stink at it right now.
It's just
Ourselves.
there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And I guess like something we can kind of end on is like how do you make decisions about what to do next and when to stop something?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you have a ton of opportunities you can't take and a ton of opportunities you want to push forward. How do you make those decisions, especially when you have 6 kids you're kind of taking care of and a husband and weddings and clients?
Yeah.
How do you make those choices?
It's hard. You have to make money, so you have to make sure that's always steady. Like right now, I should have had my course done already, but I don't because wedding season's here now, and
Because Stop Go Love hasn't helped you with the video yet.
I know, darn those guys. No, it's hard, and you really have to search yourself. So I'm always like, if something's not bringing you joy anymore, and if it's not bringing you joy, and you don't have the demand of you need this money now, don't do it. Don't push yourself to do it if you don't love it. Like I know a lot of photographers that get into photography think they have to shoot weddings because that's where the money is. That's the only logical way to go. You can build an entire business on portraits. There's like a million things you can do. So I think.
Well, I like to think about it like if you enjoy something, and we're not doing it to have fun. Like we're not kids,
Right.
But when you can authentically enjoy it, it gives you the energy
Right.
to do. Because anything that you do requires sacrifice.
Right.
So if you don't have the energy to sacrifice to do it,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard to do well.
Especially in the entrepreneur world, because you're your business. You have to push it. So if you're not loving it, you're not going to want to push it and
Really actually do
really
what it takes.
actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of love what you're doing, I think.
I think that
And
that's
it's
a
work.
good point.
You have to actually work. Like the clients aren't going to come to you. You have to put in the work. A lot of entrepreneurs think this day and age where they are just going to get it because they post it on social media. Like, no, you have to work at it. You have to do some free shoots if to get your portfolio, or you know what I mean? You have to put work in.
One of the things I've seen is looking at your expectations in a couple of different ways. If you're looking to start something, whether it be I'm going to do family shoots or I'm going to do a new brand or who knows what it is, you have a long-term goal and you have a short-term goal. And if you only have a long-term goal, like I'm going to make $100,000 off this, you might be 5 years before you get to that point. And I know a lot of people, I'm like, what do you hope to see now? And they're like, I'm like, let's just 5 weddings.
Right.
So I think one of the things I've seen is small goals and also big goals. But when you're like, should I do this? Should I start this? Even if you're listening to this and maybe you haven't even started your career doing this. I talked to a guy yesterday. He did 1 wedding. And I'm like, try to do 5. Not try to do 30 or try to do 40 or try to get your prices to $6,000. No.
Right.
I said, here's your market. I go, let's go look at your market. Your market average is $2,000. That's great. Try to get your prices a little under your market. Try to do 5. Then you try to do 10. And so I think like one of the things that I know you do and we do is when we start something, we're like small goals and big goals. And so when you have a small goal, you can kind of gauge your progress a little bit and you don't feel as defeated and frustrated because you're like, oh, I did what I thought.
Right.
You know, even if it's like get 100 likes on this thing, like little small goals every day to make you feel like you're making progress, I think are really important as an entrepreneur. Because especially when seasonal work like ours, it can feel like you're frozen sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you're only working 7 months out of the year, and then you're like, is my business shrinking?
Right. Am I going to fail? Like, what's next? And then you see the Florida photographers or videographers pushing their content out because it's their wedding season, and then you just feel like crap, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? But that's not you got to put the comparison aside and just slowly work on your own business.
Create something, and like I do think what you've done really smart is you've created a product that is not seasonally dependent, and that's really good. You've created a conversation you can have 365 with your audience, and then you've put your personality, your marriage, your insecurities at the forefront so you can have like an authentic conversation. And you sold, like, it's not a sales thing. So if you're one of the blush brides or tribes
Clients,
or blush folks, not folks, ladies, you know, I wouldn't say you're not using these people.
Oh, no.
But you're leveraging authentic relationships to make the product more appealing.
Right.
And I think at the core of everyone, we can all do that as
Right.
businesses. We can all say, what is authentic to me? What do I want to make someone feel like? So one of the things I know for us, we want our brides to feel like we really are serving them and trying to make it laid back. And
We made it a very easy process for them
Easy.
to get
That's-
really good video.
want it to
at
be
an
really
affordable
easy
price.
from the sales process to the website to the day of. We want the other vendors to feel like it was easy. We want everyone to feel like it was easy.
Right.
You know, that's one of our values. And so we get that feedback. Oh, it was really easy. You were really laid back. You were fun to work with.
Right.
I know that that's worked for us. And I'm sure you get the feedback. Oh, you were really nice and you were really authentic. And it's like, if you don't really get feedback and you don't have a goal of what you're trying to really communicate to the bride beyond, here is my product. I would say if you were listening to this and there's one thing I would encourage you to work on is figure out the message you want someone to get that isn't your product.
Right.
And really try to define that with everything you do from social to your website to your bedside manner, so to speak, to the deliverable.
Right.
It's like, make it you.
Right.
You know, that's a big thing.
I think we're kind of, you brought up a question, Jay, about like knowing what the next steps are in your business and what kind of directions to go. And I think about Kim, like we have a relationship outside of photography too. Like went to Nowlands in
Yeah, we
October
did.
together. And so the thing that I hear a lot from you guys is you are trying new things. Like,
Right.
let's build a new studio. We want to adjust our business to be more of this or that. How is I guess the subject of like failure? I mean, have you guys encountered that? Like, how have you guys overcome kind of certain aspects of failure? I know what I will talk about, but I'm curious kind of to see,
I mean, of course,
Yeah.
anytime we don't get the wedding, it feels like failure. Anytime we had to move studios, I felt like a failure, only because I felt more like a failure to other wedding photographers and other vendors.
Yep.
Not internally, which is crazy to me because
Yeah.
I didn't, like, I knew it was what was best for me, but I felt like everyone else would think I
You
was a
wanna,
fraud
like,
I'm like, are they going to think that my business is doing bad because I'm not in a studio anymore? But really, it was the tenants and the parking lot, and it was this, and this, and we had enough business to continue. I just didn't like working there.
Yep.
So all of those failures, all of those different steps in my business felt like failures. Even doing less weddings sometimes felt like a failure.
Yeah.
Right now, because last year we said we weren't doing many weddings this year, we only have 20 this year. From last year, that's not many. Like last year, we had 35. So it's a crazy transition for a one-person kind of team. I know you guys do like a million more. But all of those little things feel like failures to me, even though I'm perfectly content in my business and that sort of thing. But you just got to do what's best for you, I feel like.
I think a lot of people feel like failures too when it comes to pricing. They almost feel like, oh, I can't, or I tried to charge this much. Like we were talking to Matt a couple weeks ago, you know, about pricing, and we just raised prices this year. And, you know, it's just, you see certain things work and then certain things not work. And I think it's less about like failure. You know, it's not necessarily a failure because it didn't work. Now you know. Now you can learn from it and adjust from it. You know, and this is kind of like, it's probably like an old guy conversation where you're like, these millennials.
These rack-a-frackin' millennials.
Yeah, they're so afraid of failure that they can't even, you know, succeed.
With their
but it's
Facey
true.
books and their Instagrams.
It's true, and
Facebook.
I think the failures that you encounter, a lot of times they're not like life threatening or business threatening. It's just they're small failures. I think a lot of times people aren't willing to take those risks, and also when people are, they're different. Like nowadays, we're taking more risk in different ways than I think when we first started.
I personally don't ever feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always,
Neither do I. I feel like, we probably
learn
stunk
from it.
there.
yeah,
But-
I like, so because I know I fail.
Yeah.
I know,
It just becomes a part
failure
of
is
who
not
you are.
an emotion I feel. Failure is the thing I do.
Yep.
Right.
So like, I'll try something and it fails and I'm like, and then I go home with my kid.
Yep.
That's the difference between successful people and people who don't keep pushing.
Totally.
Anyone that's successful has failed a million times.
Yep.
It's
It's
what it
no
is.
skin off my back.
Yeah.
It's like I tried something. There are all kinds of reasons why things don't work, from market reasons to
Yeah.
I had a bad idea to someone else had a better idea.
Yeah.
Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
What I do think is important is like, we kind of talked about this a few times, is you got to push your business to the next level. You got to
Yep.
try things.
Yep.
And part of that is going to be trying things that don't work. You got to mitigate risk to the best of your ability. But like, I think when you do fail, this is the damaging part about personalizing your business to the point where your business is you. Your business is not you.
Right.
Now, Kim's very authentic and real with her business, but some of it is like, she's talking about her kids, right? If your kids or your marriage went away, that would be devastating.
Right.
If your business went away, it would hurt.
Right.
But, and it's like, that's not me. My business is not me. And so I don't go like, oh, people want to book someone else. I'm a bad person. I'm not valuable. I
Yeah.
stink. Oh, this guy's able to charge more than me. Like, now I do get competitive, and I think that's good. Like,
Yeah.
it's good to feel like be pushed by other people's success. Like, why is that guy? I can do that.
Yeah.
I can
Right.
do that. Like, what's he doing? I'm going to learn from that. I want to get where he is,
Right.
or she is, or whatever. But I think personalizing business, I think is a really important thing that if I could give. I think this is different maybe in my beliefs than other people, is like, it's like, charge what you're worth. And I'm like, I'm worth infinite. I'm not going to charge infinite.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a human being, man. Like, I'm worth a lot. I'm
Right.
not like, it has nothing to do with my worth.
Yeah.
It's charge what the market can afford.
Right.
Charge what they're willing to pay, and it's not personal.
Right.
And I think like, if I could give like one bit of wisdom to the person starting out, is like, it's just a business, man. Like, It's not personal.
Yeah.
And like, have fun with it. It's good to get personal worth from it. Like, I feel good that we're doing well. But at the same time, I have like a separation between, well, we're doing well, but like if my marriage isn't doing well, then I'm not doing well.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think on a personal level, I think that's something that I've struggled with where like I would go to Thanksgiving when we first started, maybe the first like 3 years.
Yeah.
All I had to talk about was either sports or my business. That's all I would think about all the time is stop, go love, stop, go love. Okay, we got to do, more. It's like obsessive, but it was like I would go to Thanksgiving and I wouldn't have anything to talk about besides the business. That's the only interesting, and I think it's probably good to be obsessive, but a healthy obsession.
It's kind of a trait of entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And it's something that I've been learning, and I think and balancing better in my life personally now is like, okay, well, yeah, the business is good, but I need to find a way to turn it on Monday morning at 8:00 and then turn it off when I go home. I'm not bringing, that kind of stuff home to Sammy. And, if I have a weekend off, you know what? I'm not going to be picking up my phone. I'm not going to be answering emails. Like, this is this time. And yeah.
I do think, so I think mostly work-life balance is crap.
Yeah.
And like, get over yourself.
It's so hard. Like there's
It's not how the world works. Like,
Yeah.
there are people like in like third world countries working 14 hours a day. So I don't really want to hear about somebody complaining about working 6 hours. That being said, boundaries are important.
Yep.
I think work like whatever your boundary, like setting boundaries and
Yep.
adding value to the people in your life is important. I don't actually think most people running photography businesses actually struggle with this. I'm like, you're shooting 30 weddings a year. How much like could you imagine you edited 5 days a wedding, which I think is a lot.
Yeah.
But like, it's 150 work days a year.
Yeah.
An average person's working like 340 days a year.
Yeah.
I think the difference is though, you're to your clients, they see you as target. So they see you as open, 8:00 till midnight. And so you're getting text messages. And I know for me, when I get a text message at 11:00, I'm like instantly like, who do they think they're?
That's because we're old school.
Yeah. And you're just like, I'll answer people, but I'm like, like I got to do this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for people to just have the self.
Do you have like those border rules? Like, what are the rules you try to have? And then what are the
That's a
rules you
good
say you
question,
have?
yeah.
And then what are the actual?
It's so bad. I was emailing with a bride at like midnight the other night. She's like, "Why are you still answering me?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like it came in."
I
so
tell
I'm
my wife all the
answering."
time that I'm like, stop
Yeah,
responding to customers.
it's bad. Like it's bad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm bad with it. Like if someone emails me, I try to respond right away.
Yeah, I just have my times where I do email.
Yeah.
I know. I love emailing people like a psychopath at like 1:00 in the morning. Like
I like
sitting in bed.
I
I
like
do
doing.
it.
I actually
Yeah.
like doing email at night because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
we're just sitting in bed and we're watching
Yeah.
TV and I'm
Yep.
just she's reading and I'm reading. It's like
Yeah.
what do I?
Shiloh's
Yeah.
sleeping on the couch. I'll just like.
I don't think that that's bad, but I do think like just having an idea of like where you can become imbalanced.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know, and one of
definitely.
the things is like there are some times where I'm like, everyone get off your phones.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like if we're out doing something, no one's on their phones. Like if me and Shiloh are out to dinner, we just put it away. And like, yeah.
And so yeah, business is awesome. Like it's fun to
Yep.
have a business.
Yep.
You know, I just wanted to thank you so much for being on.
No worries.
And if you are interested, why don't you kind of tell your social stuff, websites, that kind of
where can
So
people find
on Instagram, you can find me at Lyn Chauvin, KimLynChauvin. On Facebook, we're at Lyn Photography. Website's KimLynPhotography.com. That's about it.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And if you're into Dudeoir, she's open, available.
Maybe that'll be Shiloh's like.
Yeah, that's his
That could be
end.
Shiloh's
That
As
could
long
be
as he
Shiloh's
doesn't ask
thing.
me to do it,
Yeah.
then
Ask him. You know, us dudes, like you want to talk about self-image problems? Guys have self-image
oh
problems.
my goodness, yeah, that's a whole new world to tackle if Shiloh's interested.
So we're, like I said, super, super glad to have you. And hopefully you had fun.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
hanging out with you guys. So.
Yeah. So, hey, make sure if you're on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Click on that little bell, subscribe to our channel. We also have a bunch of other content on there. If you go to our tips section, where that's not as long. It's not podcast, but it's just kind of helpful content that we think will help a wedding creative business run their business. So thank you guys so much for checking out the Wedding Pros podcast today. Have a great day.